All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack a fascinating story about how one city, Islamabad, tried to tame its completely wild world of private schools. And the key player, the hero of this story, if you will, an organization called PEIA. Think of them as the city's official education watchdog. We're going to see how they did it, so let's get started.
So let me ask you this. What do you think happens when basically anyone can open a school? I mean, charge whatever they want, set their own rules, hire whoever they want, no oversight at all. What does that do to parents, teachers, and of course the kids? Well, for Pakistan's capital city, the answer was pretty simple. Absolute chaos.
And when I say chaos, I mean it was literally the Wild West of education. You could have fees that just skyrocketed overnight with no warning. You had zero guarantee that your kid's teacher was even qualified to be in a classroom. And the school buildings themselves, who knew if they were safe? And get this, if you had a problem, a serious complaint, good luck. There was no one to turn to. This was the day-to-day reality for thousands upon thousands of families.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We've just seen what the Wild West looked like. Next up, we'll meet the new sheriff in town, PEIRA. Then we'll peek inside their rule book, see the actual impact this had on families, and wrap up with the mission they're still on today. All right, so to deal with all that chaos, the government had to step in. And that brings us right to our first big section, enter PEIR, the new sheriff.
So what exactly is PEIRA? Well, the full name is a bit of a mouthful, the Private Educational Institutions Regulatory Authority. But really, you can just think of it as the official government body with one single-minded mission: to register, regulate, and monitor every single private school in the Islamabad Capital Territory. No exceptions.
Now, PEIRA didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It actually started back in 2006, but it was just a temporary fix then. The real game changer was 2013. That's when Parliament passed the PEIRA Act and gave the organization real legal teeth. From there, things moved fast. By 2021, they were rolling out major fee regulations, and by 2026, they went fully digital first. So yeah, that's a heck of a journey from a temporary idea to a really modern authority.
Okay, so PEIRA has all this power, but how does it actually work? What are they doing day to day? Let's crack open the regulator's rulebook and take a look inside. At first glance, this looks like any government chart, but it's actually all about accountability. Think of it like this. You've got the chairperson at the top, thinking about big picture strategy. Then the secretary, who handles the day-to-day nuts and bolts. The directors are in charge of specific areas, like registration. And then, and this is crucial, you have the inspection officers. These are the real boots on the ground folks. It's a clear chain of command, and having these defined pay scales just reinforces that structure. It's how they keep everything in check. So, if you want to open a school in Islamabad, how do you get the green light? Well, it's a pretty tough 4-step process. First, you have to submit everything online. It's all paperless. Then a team literally scrutinizes every single document. We're talking land deeds, safety certificates, teacher qualifications, the whole shebang. After that, an inspection team physically comes to your school to check everything out. And only then, if you pass every single one of those checks, do you get a license to operate. They don't make it easy. You can really boil down all of PEIRA's work to 3 main pillars. The first pillar is registration and regulation. Basically, they're the gatekeepers. They decide who gets a license. The second pillar is all about academics and quality. They're making sure the curriculum is solid and the teachers actually know what they're doing. And the third pillar, that's monitoring and evaluation. This is their investigative arm, the ones doing surprise inspections, and so importantly, handling all those parent complaints. Okay, having a bunch of rules on paper is one thing, but what does this actually mean for families on the ground? What's the real-world impact? This is where it gets really interesting. 5%. That's it. Just 5%. This one single number might be the most famous, or depending on who you ask, the most infamous rule PEIRA has. It's the cap, the maximum amount most private schools can raise their fees each year. For parents, this is huge. It means predictability. It's a shield against those sudden, insane tuition hikes that could just completely wreck a family's budget. I mean, just look at this before and after. The difference is night and day. Before PEIRA, you had random, unlimited fee hikes. After, a predictable cap. Before, teachers had no guaranteed minimum pay. Now, schools have to comply with the federal minimum wage. Before, if you had a complaint, you had nowhere to go. Now, there's a dedicated complaint cell. They even banned schools from forcing parents to buy super expensive uniforms from just one specific shop. These are real, tangible changes. And really, it all boils down to this single idea. PEIRA has significantly shifted the power dynamic between private school owners and parents. That's the core of it. In a way, it became a consumer protection agency, but for education. It finally gave parents and teachers a real voice and a set of rights that they just never had before.
And the scale of this whole thing is just massive. We're not talking about a handful of elite schools here. PEIRA is regulating over 1,500 institutions, and those schools are educating more than 300,000 students. Think about that. That is an absolutely enormous undertaking.
But look, this isn't a perfect fairy tale ending. The mission is far from over. So for our last section, let's get real about the challenges PEIRA is still facing and what the road ahead looks like.
Yeah, this job is anything but easy. For starters, PEIRA faces constant pushback from some school owners who don't like the new rules. Then there's the huge challenge of standardization. How do you apply the same rules to a super expensive elite academy and a small, low-cost neighborhood school? It's tough. And like so many government bodies, they're often trying to do this massive job with limited resources, not enough people or budget to monitor everyone as much as they'd like. But when you step back and look at the big picture, PEIRA's real legacy is that it created a system where there was nothing before. It literally built a framework for accountability from scratch, one that protects thousands of families, gives teachers actual rights, and has even become a kind of model for other regions looking to do the same thing.
And all of this leaves us with a really big question, one that goes way beyond just Islamabad. It's about that constant tug of war, right? The balancing act between regulation and innovation. How does a city, any city, make sure every single kid gets a quality education? PEIRA is Islamabad's answer to that question. And it really makes you stop and think, what's the answer where you live?